Hi everyone, welcome to today's live training. I'm so excited to be here. We've had quite a few new people join this month, so I'm really happy for all of you. I'm so happy to be connected. I'm so excited for you to start getting some of the education that I think you so deserve and that many are not getting in their their conventional treatment appointments. So let's get started. If you're new to these live trainings or you're new to the group, just know I'm so thrilled to have you here. If you'd like, take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from, what brings you here today, or what you're excited to learn. Just to let you know a little bit about me, I'm a trained clinical psychologist and I developed a profound expertise in pain psychology, health psychology, the impact of stress on our bodies. I've worked in various settings over the years, VA hospitals, private practice, outpatient centers, and just I've listened to hundreds of individuals, I don't know, thousands, how many now, who've had chronic pain. So this really remains my mission to connect these women with pain with the education that they deserve. So thanks for joining me. I'm genuinely grateful for your presence. If you see me looking to the side, this is just a heads up. I do prepare for these. I always want to provide you with as much value as possible. Your time is valuable, and I just want to make it count. So if you see me looking to the side, I'm just trying to track my notes. But the other thing I like to bring up every now and then is, why should you trust me? I know the space is so saturated with coaches and different specialists talking about chronic pain. There's so much out there, which I think is wonderful. But you might be wondering why you should trust me. And that's a reasonable question. And when I think about chronic pain and why I think I have a lot to offer is I believe truly that all pain is real. So anything you are experiencing right now, right this moment is real. I believe that it exists exactly as you would describe it to me. I also believe that pain is biopsychosocial, that it lives in the overlap of biological, psychological, and social factors. And when I look around at other coaches and therapists in this space and in my past experiences in clinical settings, I noticed how little this model is actually talked about, even though it's probably the most appropriate at this point. If pain is not being addressed in this way, we're not addressing the whole issue of pain. That treatment plan is lacking a part of the puzzle. But it's so little talked about in pain care, and I think it's because everybody's just sort of sticking to their own scope of practice. Physicians, physical therapists, they practice a lot of the biological, anatomical body piece. Psychologists practice the emotional, coping, thinking piece. And even the practitioners that I hear talk about a more comprehensive approach for pain through a biopsychosocial lens, they are still having a hard time targeting each part of that model because it is limited to their scope of training. We're not trained in everything, or maybe they weren't confident in the other areas. So I'm noticing a beautiful trend in the chronic pain world where people are really trying to expand their scope of practice. For me, I worked very closely with and learned so much from physical therapists, occupational therapists, trauma therapists, physicians, and individuals from other disciplines, marriage and family therapy, yoga, spiritual guides. And all of these all of these people that I've trained with, we very consciously integrated, very intentionally integrated our knowledge because we knew that the sum of our parts created greater change than our individual practices could alone. So with these relationships and this knowledge, I directed an interdisciplinary pain program in my last clinical job. My team helped 10 individuals at a time every few months. They had chronic complex pain situations go from being their lives where they're completely controlled by their pain and flare-ups to forgetting about their pain on most days and engaging in their ideal day, beginning to do this within just a few months. And so I wanted to take that integrated approach and really try to connect with as many women as I could to provide them with this information, with what I've learned. And so that's really how this business was born, and why I think I've developed enough expertise over these years and through my doctorate level training to be able to share this education with you online. So 5, 6 years from that position now, I've continued to dive deep, learn about pain, and I've honed in on 3 pillars that make up what I like to call the pain recovery trifecta, the 3 things that can accelerate pain recovery. And not only are these pillars backed by science, but they are effective. And so they are effective because instead of addressing one part of the pain picture, they address the entire thing. And so that sort of gave birth to this pain recovery trifecta. And the philosophy behind it is that chronic pain is multifactorial, it's multidimensional, and it's unique to you. And I like to think of overcoming chronic pain like building a house. We need a strong foundation. I've talked about this before. A strong foundation, a design, a reliable frame, customized details to refine it, what makes it unique for us, and a roof to protect it, to protect all of the work that we've done. And I address all of these pieces in this trifecta, starting with what I call neuroscience informed mind body wisdom. So, this is the first part of that trifecta and what we'll be talking about today. In my next two trainings, I'll be talking about the other two components of this trifecta. And so, neuroscience informed body wisdom is where I combine my knowledge of pain neuroscience, psychophysiology, the brain, stress, mind body connection to provide a solid foundation of what pain is, what our brain is doing, and why we are feeling it in our bodies. And then turn that into education that's digestible, it's actionable, and it neutralizes the threat of pain. Now, the second part of neuroscience informed mind body wisdom is sort of that we have to have an understanding of fear and the role of fear and the threat response in our own body and what turns our alarm systems on and how to dial that down so that the brain, the nervous system, that they don't think they need to protect us with pain in the first place. So this is sort of what we're talking about today. Now, just to share the other two pieces of the trifecta, the next piece is called value-centric motion, where we're talking here about deliberate and intentional movement that aligns with our values. So movement is one of the number one safety generators for chronic pain, but it's also one of the hardest things to do when you have really bad pain. So movement here means both moving the body, exercising, engaging in things, all in a way that connects with things that you value. So bringing corrective experiences, providing corrective experiences to the brain by using these moments of movement as opportunities to train our brain's protective response of pain. Finally, the last piece of the trifecta is something I like to call pain interrupting rituals. This is where occupational science and new ways of coping come in. So we design your ideal day. We talk about that. What is that? How does that look unique to you? Using the science behind habits, rituals, values, prioritizing time management, energy management, and healthy coping. So that's what's in the pain interrupting rituals part of that trifecta. I'm just going to check the chat here. Oh, hi there. Just a hello. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you're here. And so that was just an introduction to give you an idea of where I come from, how I came up with this pain recovery trifecta, where that comes from, what the pieces are. We'll talk about all of the pieces over the next several weeks. But today, I'm really excited to talk to you about using mind-body techniques for corrective experiences in chronic pain recovery, specifically focusing on overcoming the fear of pain. So I think the first step here is just an understanding, developing an understanding of what fear is. Fear is a universal response to threat or danger. We have all felt fear, whether that's we're waiting for results of a lab or a test that we took at the doctor, maybe passing this happened to me today. I was going a little too fast and I passed a police car, or realizing we forgot something really important that we needed to do on our to-do list. That also happened to me today. So fear, though, can really heighten our senses and it amplifies danger signals, including pain. And research has shown that fear puts our brain on high alert. It influences the way that we interpret signals from our body. It's almost like when fear is present, we're putting new lenses into the glasses through which your brain is viewing everything. And this is sort of neuroplastic pain in action. It demonstrates how fear can create and sustain pain even when there's not a physical threat present. So it's like we've talked about this in past live trainings, sort of that faulty alarm system. Now, the other part of this is that in our modern world, stress, both positive and negative, can trigger this heightened state of fear and affects our pain levels. We know also that adverse childhood experiences can prime our bodies for fear. It can make us more sensitive to it in the long run. And fear primes the body for neuroplastic pain. It sets the stage for pain to become chronic. And if you're wondering, what is neuroplastic pain? What does that word mean? I think that was my last live training. So look for the training called Decoding Neuroplastic Pain to learn more about that. But research consistently shows that pain-related fear can keep pain going long-term, regardless of its origin, regardless of its diagnosis. So the more fear you have about your pain, the more likely it is to persist, and this can trap you in a cycle of fear, avoidance, and pain. Now, when I describe this process, I am not trying to describe this as a blaming of you, because this cycle, this fear pain cycle, happens to anyone. It can happen to anyone. It's probably happened to your providers. It happened to me. It happened to many of the women I've talked to. And it's because this is the natural direction that our brain takes. And it's really hard to break out of it without the proper education and guidance to help you do that. Now that we know a little bit about how fear is dialing things up, we're going to talk about how to turn down the volume on fear and turn up the volume on safety. So let's dive into what to do about that. How do we do this? Well, the three things that we need to think about here is thinking about mental shifts, behaviors, and emotions. So starting with mental shifts, one essential mental shift is accepting that there's not a physical problem in the body. So most tissues in the body heal within 2 to 4 months. Whether your pain started with a diagnosis, an injury, maybe you still have this diagnosis, but a lot of what can keep pain going at the level that people are experiencing it is that we view this as the brain has made a mistake. This is like a faulty alarm. The brain is making a mistake. And once we understand it that way and truly integrate that into our belief system, and that is hard work right there, because I'm probably saying this to some of you now and you're like, what are you talking about? There's this, and I had this test and the doctor said this and this, and I'm not discounting any of that. But a lot of what can keep pain going and dial it up is this faulty alarm system. The alarm system has become too sensitive. The brain is making a mistake. It's viewing certain signals from your body as danger instead of neutral or safe. And so once we view pain as the brain making a mistake, it can lose its power. And retraining the brain involves accepting that pain may not have a physical cause and shift from high alert to low alert. Now, the second essential piece here is behaviors. Behaviors play a crucial role in conditioning our responses. And in my group program, I provide specific psychophysiological drills and somatic exercises and education that goes along with it to provide the tools that are needed, one, to make this mental shift we talked about before, but two, to start sending safety messages to the brain. It's about observing sensations without fear, leaving ego expectations behind, adopting a childlike curiosity. And this is not naturally how we look at pain, right? So this is where the hard work is. And many of us, this is sort of, another, when we're talking about behaviors, I think it's important to bring this up, that many of us function in a state of perpetual self-criticism, perfectionism, people-pleasing, I must, disappointment when we don't meet our own expectations, disappointment when we try to do all of this for our pain. We're advocates for ourselves. We are trying to be preventative, but nothing works. And so it's important to know that behaviors like worrying, self-imposed pressure, self-criticism can really heighten this state of alert. And so recognizing these behaviors is the first step in breaking that cycle. It's that awareness, a noticing of it, and then we can move on to what to do about it. Again, this isn't a blaming, right? This is the natural direction that we might go, especially if we're used to being high achievers and functioning at a really high level, and now we're not because we have this pain. And just remember, and remember that this process takes time, that there's a trusting of the process that has to happen. And that's really hard, right? We're not talking about an overnight fix here or a procedure or a medication that, here, take this and you'll feel better. This is a process. And honestly, if there was a medication or procedure or a surgery that helped all people with pain reliably, we wouldn't even be in this group right now. So it's important to remember that we can move toward recovery, whatever that looks like for each of us uniquely, but that this is a process that takes time and we have to trust it. Its effectiveness depends a lot on whether the approach we take falls under that umbrella of safety or fear. So our brain is either safety or it's fear. And so there are a lot of things that we don't really think about that can fall under that umbrella of danger or fear, right? A lot of different emotions like, feeling disappointed, worried, sad. Our brain interprets those as falling under a fear umbrella and not a safety umbrella. So a lot of these feelings are natural responses to what's going on. A lot of the thoughts we have are natural responses to what's going on. But the first step is building an awareness of what are our own responses to pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, and how might they contribute to a heightened sense of fear or danger for our brain. So that's just this awareness. That's a first step. So then we can seek out opportunities and forge our own path because your pain is unique to you, right? But I think guidance is really helpful here. I'm not sure. I think once we become aware of what are these patterns for us, I'm not sure a lot of people know naturally what to do about that or how to break those cycles. And that what that looks like is unique to everybody, right? So when we think about overcoming the fear of pain and how it's this crucial step for pain recovery, sort of the what, this is the why, right? This is the why we use mind body techniques. We can pave the way for lasting change. And so if you're interested in diving deeper into some of these concepts or implementing practical strategies, consider joining my group program. I provide within that program a step-by-step guide of exactly how to do this. I provide drills and exercises and pre-recorded education, group coaching twice a week. We talk exactly how to do this and how to push through some of the barriers that come up along the way. And then I show them how to integrate all of this, all of the things they learn into their ideal day. So what is it that you want your ideal day to look like? How do we integrate the things you learned? And then how do we build from that? So if you're ready to explore personalized strategies that can empower you to overcome this pain-related fear, break free from that cycle, reclaim the things you've lost to pain, just put a me in the chat. You can do that whether you're watching this live or the replay. Just throw a me in the chat and let's just get on a complimentary connection call. So if anyone has questions, feel free to write them in the comments. So again, mind, body, wisdom, and providing corrective experiences for our brain comes from a knowing of how the mind and the body interact. So how what we think in our brain, what's happening in our brain, the things that fall under that fear umbrella can impact how we feel in our bodies. And then how do we correct that? How do we give enough doses of corrective experiences to start to shift the dial and turn down the threat? And give our brain new ways of responding to pain. So again, if you're curious about this and you want to learn a little bit more or talk about your own situation and what this means to you, I think it would be so much fun to hop on a connection call with me. It's 15 minutes, it's no pressure, just to learn more about pain that you're having and see how I can help. I still do not see any questions in the chat, but if you have any questions at all, always leave them in the chat. It lives on forever, again, whether you're watching the replay or watching it live. And I will see you next week for our next live training, and we'll continue to talk about the pain recovery trifecta. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have you all in the group, and I'll talk to you soon.